timbers there.
Yeah, this flat piece right here,
In the water?
that's what's left of the mill.
Those slats.
Those slats.
Yeah, when you get down there, you can see where.
You did?
Thanks.
So what was this mill called?
Butler Mill.
Butler Mill?
Butler Mill.
What year was it?
I don't remember. This is Fred's part.
Anybody said anything on this yet?
No. You want to start, and then Ralph or Fred will jump in.
I've been here before. You go ahead. No, you go ahead. The only thing I know about this, I don't know, I try to tell a lot of people where the property line is for Jackson Township and Ellsworth.
There's still some work coming here as soon as they get here. I suppose it's difficult for some people to get here.
The Butler Mill, huh?
Butler and what's the other one? I forget what the name is.
Riddle.
Riddle.
And what year was that?
Oh,
Early 1800s.
I'll tell you what. If
Oh,
you
please
were
don't
here
go down.
Today, you would get picked up for being in property you're not supposed to be in. So think about this. You have a special privilege today to be here at this site. I was given a couple forms of information. One from the publishing of this particular site. I'm going to bring the two together, kind of. And this was actually what they called Butler's Mill. Now a forgotten village, once teemed with life on Meander's banks. And so I'm going to take some information from one source and then the other. This old landmark has been somewhat unearthed. I mean, after a period of time, you know how it is. Things disappear and then they try to find out some more origin. The original granite millstones from grinding grain at what was once known as Riddle Mill, more often referred to as, I just said, Butler Mills, has just been born and uncovered 5 foot of earth by Mahoning Valley Sanitary District while straightening a creek channel. So as they were doing this, I understood that they were unearthed some things of historical significance. The old mill, located on Meander Creek, just above what is now known as Gibson Road, which is where we were back there, at the south edge of Jackson Township and just east the south end of Lipke Road, which we were on earlier. The grist mill was located on the east bank of the creek and a sawmill on the west bank, and both operated by the water of Meander Creek held back by a dam, which from the records was 9 foot 8 inches high in 1834 and 9 feet 2.5 inches high as measured by John Ewing and Isaac Little on December 8, 1837. At one time, there was a small community located at Butler Mills. And I'll just take some information from the other article that says the community had a grist mill, a sawmill, a general store, a blacksmith shop, and was of the center between Warren and Canfield. The highway from Warren to Butler Mills was known as the Butler Mill Road and is still occasionally called that by name. William Butler, a bachelor, ran the grist mill and the general store. He was related to the Butlers of Warren, Youngstown, and the Mahoning Valley. The grist mill was a 2-story building standing on the south side of the road. It had 3 runs of burr stones, used silk bolted cloth, and otherwise was modernly equipped for its day. An overshoot water wheel supplied the power. The water is backed up by the mill dam in the large natural basin of the Meander, which is where we are now. The mill was destroyed by fire and was the sawmill on the left bank, about 30 rods further upstream. The sawmill was the old upright saw type. It did a big business, and often during winter, the 4-acre yard was filled 2 to 3 feet deep with logs, mainly white oak, but also some popular and other varieties. Logs were taken to the mill from as far north as the David Anderson farm in Lordstown Township by David Akins, who was, at that time, he had a 2-yoke team of oxen, and he made this run round trip every day. At the general store at Butler's mill, one could buy anything needed, from a paper pin to a plug of tobacco and the outfit of clothing. Miss Rachel Ewing, the daughter of Archibald and Jane Russell Ewing, was in charge of the millinery department. Another store assistant in the millinery was Dunlap Dowes, I think it is D-O-W-E-S, whose husband was a Civil War veteran. The blacksmith shop at Butler Mills was ran by Andrew Heroff, a good blacksmith, Mr. Kirk recounts. Mr. Butler conceived the idea that a fortune could be made in this slippery elm area from anyone who would develop it. So Butler and Dr. B.W. Spear, the village physician, peeled a large quantity of elm and hauled it down to the valley by oxen. After grinding it at the mill, they sent it to Cincinnati at a time when the slippery elm market was glutted, I guess is the word. The project was a complete loss. And then I'll continue with the other writing that mentions this particular area. As I said, it was known as a small community located here. The father of the former County Commissioner Horace Spear of Garfield practiced medicine in this community for many years. Homer Kirk of Canfield, at that time 98 years old, remembers going to the mill when he was a boy. Records further indicate that these mills were still operating in 1867. The millstones were buried deep in the earth and buried in the debris. Of all the traces of finding the foundation seemed to be gone. Large trees had grown over the site. The creek, true to its name, had long since meandered to another channel further west. The stones hewn for granite boulders are 4 feet in diameter, and the depth taper for 9 inches at the edge to 15 inches in the center. The faces between which the grain had ground was grooved in a perfect pattern of lines. What was the bottom stone is broken in 2, while the top stone seems to be the perfect condition. It is quite evident that the pioneers had tools and methods for working on the granite stones, which would be hard to match in our ordinary present-day methodology. It would seem desirable that these millstones should be permanently kept as a reminder of the skill of the earlier pioneers. And Natalie may have to help me out on this, but when you go back to Jackson, at the community center right there where the police department is, right there is one of the stones. Millstone. So maybe as you meander back, if you meander back, you might want to stop and look at that stone, which is very significant to this part of the area. Mr. Miller, can you add anything more?
You covered it pretty good. The other halves were stolen. They sat right against this, on the other side of there, so you could see them as you drove in. I've been still looking for the pictures, because I know I got pictures of them sitting there. One was given after those other 2 were stolen, and one was given to Jackson. I can't add any more.
And one more thing before you go that's interesting, and if you reflect back up on where we were before we came down here, below the cemetery, and you can see it here how this is down. There were 3 really bad floods in this area. One was, I don't have the papers with me, I know one was 1834, I think one was 1864, and there was one in 1910. And there was a story told about, I believe it was the Kirk family, but it could have been the Ewing family. It was on the north side of the road, and it was storming terribly, and the lady of the house looked out the window, and there was a covered bridge that went over the creek up in that area at that time. And she said, my word, she says, the water is almost up to the bottom of the bridge. There was just terrible water coming in. And there were sheep floating down that were drowned. There, in the morning, the cows that they were boarding for another family were on a high point with water all around them. I believe that was the 1834 flood. But you can see this is a low area and the creek's right there and everything drained into it, and it would just come up like 10 feet deep, would be nothing, you know, in a severe storm. So I thought that was interesting. And Fred, you did a nice job. Thank you.
I have a beautiful picture of that Jack Ackery Sr. took off of that bridge going down here. And it's winter time. It's in my bedroom actually. But it's a beautiful picture, and it was all snow covered and so.
I need to come and see you and get a picture of your picture. We need it for our historical society.
This here bottle from one of the mill workers.
I'm sure. We used to have Indian uniforms in our work.
Going upstream of the creek. Well, I am.
That was 200 years ago. 190 years ago.
We're in the Butler Mill area of Gibson Road at the bridge. Today's Sunday, September 23rd, 2018. North Jackson Historical Society.